Brazil, a nation of unparalleled beauty, rich culture, and resilient people. Known for its vibrant festivals, lush rainforests, and soccer legends, Brazil captures the world's imagination. But beneath the surface, the country faces a web of crises that profoundly affect its citizens daily. Today, we take you on a deep dive into the realities of Brazil's struggles, from crime and corruption to poverty and homelessness, and explore how these challenges are interconnected. Brazil is the largest country in South America, with a population of over 215 million people. Its economy is among the top 10 in the world, yet the gap between the rich and the poor is one of the widest globally. From favelas struggling with crime to government halls plagued by corruption, the issues facing Brazil are complex and deeply rooted in history. In this video, we'll unravel these challenges one by one, diving into their causes, impacts, and the possibilities for change. Crime and violence. Brazil's crime rate is among the highest in the world. In 2024 alone, over 40,000 homicides were recorded, a staggering number that reflects the pervasive violence plaguing the nation. Cities like Rio de Janeiro and São Paulo face daily battles with armed robberies, gang conflicts, and street crime. Organized crime groups known as factions have grown into powerful entities, controlling large swaths of urban neighborhoods. These groups aren't just involved in drug trafficking. They also run extortion rackets and enforce their own brutal laws in the favelas, areas often abandoned by the government. Living in the favelas means navigating a war zone. Gangs and police clash regularly, and it's the civilians who suffer the most. The police, while tasked with restoring order, often exacerbate the problem. Accusations of corruption, abuse of power, and extrajudicial killings have eroded public trust. In 2023, over 6,000 people were killed by police, with most incidents occurring in marginalized communities. The rise of gangs. Gangs in Brazil aren't just a symptom of poverty, they're an institution in some neighborhoods. These groups offer what the state often fails to provide: protection, employment, and a sense of belonging. But the cost of this security is a cycle of violence and exploitation. Gangs often target young people, some as young as 10 years old, recruiting them with promises of money and status. For many, joining a gang is seen as the only escape from poverty. Former gang member. I joined when I was 14. My family had no food, and the gang offered me money, but I didn't realize the price I would pay: my freedom, my future, and my friends. Breaking this cycle requires addressing the root causes: poverty, lack of education, and a failing justice system. Until these issues are tackled, gangs will continue to thrive. Homelessness. Brazil, a country known for its sprawling cities, beautiful landscapes, and vibrant culture, is home to millions who are grappling with the harsh reality of homelessness. From the streets of Rio de Janeiro to São Paulo's bustling downtown, homelessness in Brazil is a crisis that is impossible to ignore. Yet, it remains largely unaddressed, and the situation is worsening by the day. In Brazil, over 280,000 people are estimated to be homeless. This number represents not just a statistic, but the faces of men, women, and children who are struggling to survive on the streets, exposed to the elements, violence, and systemic neglect. While the problem is widespread across the country, it's particularly dire in large urban centers like São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and Brasilia. The causes of homelessness in Brazil. To understand homelessness in Brazil, we need to look beyond the visible signs of poverty. Homelessness doesn't occur overnight. It's the result of a series of intertwined factors, each compounding the situation. First, let's talk about the lack of affordable housing. In Brazil, the housing market is largely inaccessible to low-income individuals and families. A soaring demand for real estate has pushed up the cost of rent, while wages for the average worker have remained stagnant for years. In many cases, families who were once able to pay rent are now being priced out of their homes, unable to meet the ever-increasing costs. The housing shortage in Brazil is driven by speculative real estate practices. where land and property are seen as investment vehicles rather than solutions for housing. This means that a significant portion of the population is left behind, with little recourse for securing a home. Another key factor is unemployment. Brazil's unemployment rate has fluctuated in recent years, but even during times of relative economic stability, many Brazilians find themselves without stable, decent-paying jobs. The COVID-19 pandemic, in particular, exacerbated the situation, leading to widespread job loss and leaving many without the means to support themselves or their families. Prostitution and drug abuse. Across Brazil, prostitution is an issue that stretches far beyond simple transactions. It is intertwined with a vast web of social inequalities, drug abuse, and a lack of access to basic human rights. Prostitution is not only a matter of survival for many individuals, but also an indication of deeper systemic problems like poverty, lack of education, and limited economic opportunities. In major Brazilian cities, prostitution is an undeniable reality, with thousands of women and men working in this industry, often because they see no other way to earn money. What most people don't realize is that prostitution isn't just about sex. It's about desperation, coercion, and the search for a way to survive in a country where millions live below the poverty line. In São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and other large cities, the streets are populated with sex workers, many of whom are driven to this profession due to limited education, lack of job opportunities, and the rising cost of living. While some may choose sex work voluntarily, for a significant number of individuals, it is the result of an unfortunate set of circumstances. Former sex worker. When I was young, I was hopeful for a better life. I dreamed of becoming a teacher, but when my family faced financial hardship, I couldn't continue my studies. The job opportunities that were available didn't pay enough to support myself or my siblings. After a while, I saw no other way to survive. It wasn't about choice, it was about survival. Her story is not unique. Many women, particularly those from marginalized communities, find themselves trapped in prostitution due to systemic inequalities. Women in Brazil who work the streets often face violence, exploitation, and emotional trauma, but the cycle continues because they have no other means of support. The risks of sex work extend far beyond physical violence. Sex workers are also disproportionately affected by health issues, including sexually transmitted infections, STIs, and HIV. Brazil has made strides in providing healthcare to street workers, but resources are still limited, and the stigma surrounding sex work makes many unwilling to seek help. Many health organizations in Brazil have launched programs to provide street workers with regular health checkups, safe spaces to talk, and necessary treatment. These programs, while invaluable, are still not enough to tackle the broader issues facing the community. Criminalization pushes sex workers into even more dangerous and unregulated environments. The fear of arrest, harassment from the police, and the constant threat of violence create a vicious cycle of exploitation. Some organizations have called for decriminalizing sex work, arguing that it would lead to better protections for sex workers, fewer arrests, and greater access to social services, including healthcare and mental health support. But as with many social issues in Brazil, political will is scarce and progress is slow. Corruption. Corruption has long plagued Brazil, from local officials to the highest levels of government. Billions of dollars are lost annually to embezzlement and bribery, funds that could otherwise be used to improve infrastructure, education, and healthcare. Corruption doesn't just steal money, it steals opportunities. Every dollar lost to corruption is a school not built, a hospital not funded, and a life not improved. High-profile scandals like Operation Car Wash have exposed the depth of corruption, but systemic reforms remain elusive. Without accountability, trust in public institutions continues to erode. Poverty and unemployment. Nearly 30 million Brazilians live below the poverty line, struggling to afford basic necessities. Meanwhile, unemployment remains a pressing issue, particularly for young adults. When people can't find work, they're more likely to turn to desperate measures, whether it's crime, drug use, or joining gangs. Addressing unemployment is key to breaking this cycle of poverty. A glimmer of hope. Despite these challenges, there is hope. Grassroots organizations and nonprofits are stepping in where the government falls short, providing education, job training, and health care to those in need. Conclusion: Brazil's challenges are immense, but they are not insurmountable. With collective effort, accountability, and investment in the future, the nation can rise above these crises. Brazil is more than its struggles. It's a country of beauty, resilience, and potential. Together, we can build a brighter future for Brazil. Let's continue this conversation in the comments. What do you think are the most urgent solutions for Brazil's challenges? Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth stories on global challenges and solutions.